question.
Yeah, sure. So my name's Helene. I'm a resident of Midtown Palo Alto, and I've got three kids, two of whom are behind me here, kind of hiding.
Excellent.
But they go to JLS. They're going to eighth grade, and they bike to JLS every day. And so the discussion today involves the route that they take, and which hundreds of other kids also take the same route. And then I've also got a younger son who goes to Ohlone.
Nice.
Great. Should I jump in?
Please, yeah.
Okay, great. So this concerns the East Meadow and Ross Road roundabout. Are you familiar with this roundabout?
I am somewhat. Yeah, I used to um well actually, and I use it actually to go to Costco. So actually, I go that way as well. So yeah, I do know it.
Okay, awesome. So it'll be familiar. Okay, so brief history
But
of
we
this.
usually assume that everyone else watching has no idea. So feel free to go in detail.
Okay, sure. And can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just give a brief history for anyone watching who isn't familiar with this intersection. So before 2017, this was just a simple four-way stop at the intersection. And then, as part of the big bike project that happened, this intersection was turned into a roundabout with four-way yields. So each direction had a yield entering the roundabout. Then, what happened was it actually wound up increasing accidents, and there were a number of accidents involving bikes. And so, starting in 2020, it was turned into a two-way stop, and that's what it is today. So there's stop signs on the East Meadow direction, and then on Ross Road, this yield sign was actually removed. And so the only thing on Ross Road now is this yield to pedestrians, which of course everyone should always yield to pedestrians, but there's no yield, there's no stop. The cars are allowed to just go straight through if they're going in the Ross Road direction.
Mm.
So why was there a decision to change this to a two-way stop? So as I mentioned, in the first 18 months after the roundabout was installed, there were four collisions, three of which involved bicyclists. And these were broadside collisions where the motorist was not yielding to the bike. So there was a city council meeting, there was a report, and it was decided that a more assertive regulation would be the installation of a two-way stop. And then there was the question of what direction for the stop, and they found that East Meadow had actually more traffic, but they wanted to retain the attractiveness of Ross Road as bike boulevard. So the stop signs were put on East Meadow, and Ross Road was just allowed to cruise through. And as you can see here from these numbers, it's a pretty high traffic intersection. So you have nearly 10,000 cars and bikes every day going through this intersection. So this is not some remote area. This is something that lots of cars, lots of bikes are going through here every day. And I believe hundreds of bikes go through this intersection on the way to school, just watching all the bikes cruising through here. So when this decision happened to change it to a two-way stop, there was a lot of community input. And so I was reading through some of the letters to city council at that time, and a lot of people objected, saying that a two-way stop would be confusing, that if you're going to change it, at least make it into a four-way stop. Two-way yield is going to confuse too many people. It's going to lead to accidents. So a lot of objections. And yet the decision was made to move forward with that two-way stop. Okay, so this is how the intersection is supposed to work. So I've been corresponding with the Palo Alto Office of Transportation for over a year now. So I didn't come straight to you. I've been working directly with them, but I
Sure.
have kind of reached an impasse. This is what they've told me is that the way it's supposed to work, it's a two-way stop control with a circular island. It's not actually a roundabout, and cross traffic doesn't stop. So the way it's supposed to work is that this Ross traffic can just cruise through. They have a straightaway, and that in the other directions, they're supposed to stop and only go when it's safe and they're not going to interrupt the flow of traffic. And then, of course, there's a little island in the middle. So, what I want to show now is how it is supposed to work. I think this is probably pretty familiar. For a typical two-way stop, the cars that are stopped wait until it's safe, and the through traffic just kind of keeps going, doesn't even need to slow down. They just keep on flowing through, and the cars with the stop signs can only go when there's a break in traffic, and they can't interrupt that straightaway.
Sure.
So let's look at how it's working at the actual roundabout, which is a little different, or not roundabout, traffic circle. Let's see. Okay, so here's some video that I just stood outside one morning and took it. This is all from one morning, and I'll just start the video here. Explain the direction here. So the direction I'm showing is Ross Road. So the flow of traffic that you see, they have no stop sign, no yield. They have the right to cruise through, just cruise straight through. And then the cross traffic coming across, they have a stop sign. They're only allowed to go when it's safe and they won't interrupt the flow of traffic. So the forward direction you're seeing, they have the right to just go straight through. So let's see what happens. So you can see here already, there's an issue where the car is stopping. It has the right of way to go straight through, but what's happening is that, so if those girls had gone straight through, they would have been hit by a car right there. This isn't working the way it's supposed to work. There's another one where, again, this is just one morning and it's not working the way it's intended. We'll just watch a little bit longer.
Actually, why do some kids turn and some kids go straight? I would think they are going the same way, right?
So some kids go through the Mitchell Park Library on the way to JLS. So they go straight through the intersection, then they turn right on the next block. Some kids turn right there. My kids actually go through the Mitchell Park Library. You can see here that the girls are stopped, they're waiting, but they're not supposed to stop actually. They've got the right of way, but they don't want to get hit.
Oh.
But the cross traffic is not yielding the way it's supposed to be yielding. Watch a couple more minutes here. Here, I'll show one more segment and then I'll move on to the next one. There's another bike coming through. It has to wait. Oh my gosh, car after car after car. They're supposed to be yielding and yet they're all going through and they're not letting the traffic flow the way it's supposed to flow through there. Okay, so it goes on for a while. At one point at the end, there's a truck that goes through that takes forever and everybody has to stop. But, okay, so this is dangerous. It's not the way it's supposed to work. So what's effectively happening here is this through traffic is being obstructed more than 100 times a day. You saw it just now, probably 10 times in a single minute. And so it's not working the way it's supposed to work. So let me also talk a little bit about users' perceptions of this intersection. So as a driver entering this roundabout, and I drive through here every day, it feels like you're walking off a cliff. And everybody I talk to, 100% of my neighbors and people in the neighborhood find this intersection difficult and confusing. And when I was standing out there taking that video, 4 separate people stopped me and said, "Are you going to fix it? It's about time you're going to fix it." I was like, "I'm just a citizen. I don't have control." But all the neighbors in this area are frustrated by this intersection. So why is that? So the reason is geometry, plus the fact that no one understands what it means to have a two-way stop in a roundabout. That's just very confusing.
Yeah.
So a little bit of design principles here is that when you have a two-way stop like this, you need to have a clear line of sight, what's called a sight triangle, to make sure you can see far enough to know that it's safe before you enter the intersection. And the amount of sight that you need is determined by this equation. So the equation is speed limit times time to cross, which is the distance a car would travel in the time it's taking you to cross, times this buffer factor, 1.47. And that is the design standard for how much visibility you need to have if you're going to create a two-way stop. So if we compute that here, the cross street Ross Road has a speed limit of 25 miles per hour. Takes roughly 5 seconds for a car to cross on the East Meadow direction, and that's ignoring trucks, ignoring potential U-turns.
Are you an engineer or?
No, I just did this research.
Okay. You're very informed. I thought maybe you're a traffic engineer.
This intersection has felt so strange to me for a long time that I started looking things up in traffic manuals and so forth.
That's awesome. I love it. That's great.
Okay. So the visibility required here is the 25 mile per hour speed limit times roughly 5 seconds to cross times 1.47. So 270 feet is how much visibility you need. So if you look at this intersection from above, here you are stopped. What you really want to do is see 270 feet in both directions in order to know that it's safe to cross without anybody coming down out of sight. So let's see how much visibility we actually have. So here I am, this is me in my car at the stop sign. So when I look left here, I can see maybe 1 car length past the crosswalk, so maybe 30 feet or so. And when I look right, you can see I can't even see the whole crosswalk.
Mm.
So it's basically zero visibility to the right. So what the traffic department told me is, well, that's okay, just inch forward more until you can see. So I'll do that here. So this is me inching up to the very edge of the roundabout, but not actually going into it where I would block traffic.
So you're actually in the crosswalk at this point.
I'm on the crosswalk.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So on the left here, I can see maybe a car and a half, maybe 50 feet. And on the right, I can see a little bit past the crosswalk, maybe also 50 feet or so. So what we wanted was 270 feet, and what we got was at best 50 feet if we sit in the crosswalk.
That looks like a problem.
It's way off.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone feels like they're jumping off a cliff, is because you don't know what's coming. You're going into this intersection and you can't see anything that's coming. And you're just kind of taking a deep breath and hoping for the best. And that's why all those cars were going through despite other bikes waiting, is because they just can't see anything. Um, Now, simple geometry says it's going to be really difficult to fix, because you can see here with the circle, if you go all the way up to the edge of the circle, but you don't go into the roundabout, you have to stop here. So you're sitting on the crosswalk, but you can't go further. But if it was not a circle, you could see you could go up a lot further.
Mm.
Um, oops. So you can see here, this is what it's like with a circle. This is what it's like without a circle. So the nature of the circle means you have to be further back, and you're going to reduce visibility. That's just how a circle is, the geometry. So what's the solution? Now that we have 2 minutes left. So the solution is, if we can't provide the visibility that we need, that 270 feet, then we really need to reduce the speed. And stop signs on Ross Road would bring the speed to zero, which means current visibility would be sufficient. And that's also consistent with what you saw in the video, which is most people were stopping. And it's only when someone doesn't stop and they just cruise through that you have the risk of hitting a bike or another vehicle. The other benefit to stop signs in all directions is it would be familiar. People know how to do a four-way stop. A two-way stop with a circle in the middle is really confusing. So conclusion here is, first of all, agreeing on priorities. I think we probably agree that safety over vehicle speed, keeping kids safe, avoiding tragic fatalities on bikes. We probably also agree on adhering to design standards. We're off by 5x, and we really should comply, both to minimize risk to the community and minimize liability for the city. Addressing safety issues before we have a major accident. So I've talked to a couple parents whose kids have had accidents at this intersection after it's become a two-way stop.
Helene, did you ever research how many accidents there were before, the accident rate before and accident rate afterwards, and see how it was before and after?
So the city did research before the roundabout and after the roundabout, and they found that accidents went up after the roundabout was
Like
installed.
the rate of accidents went up.
It went up.
Mm.
Yeah,
How much,
compared to when it was a four-way stop, it went up when it became a roundabout.
how much did it go up by?
Um, I can send you the report. In fact, I think I have a link here. I'd have
Okay.
to look up the numbers. It's hard to give a percentage because the numbers are pretty small, so it's got big error bars.
Okay.
But I can send you the report afterwards,
Okay.
or at least look it up. Okay, and then finally, easy fix. If all we need to do is add stop signs on Ross Road, it would mean the current visibility is sufficient, the right of way would be clear, kids on bikes would be safer, and it's how most vehicles are behaving today, is they're stopping or they're yielding, and so
Yeah.
it would be consistent with how vehicles are treating the intersection today.
Mhm. Do you know why they made this a traffic circle to begin with?
I believe the reason was that there's research showing that traffic circles can be safer. And I think there are some things that are safer about a roundabout, is it does limit the speed. There's only so fast you can go through a roundabout. I do worry though that these aren't roundabouts, they're little traffic circles. And I'm not sure that the research they used really applied to the
Hmm.
situation they were using it for.
You know, there's a roundabout um at Stanford University, kind of near my house.
Uh-huh.
And I use it all the time whenever I go to Stanford, like on my bike, and I found it actually to be very safe. But I never thought about like the visibility. But the visibility is great. You can just kind of see like everything going by, right? And so it really, I mean, have you been to that roundabout? I think it's on Campus Drive and Escondido. Um,
Yeah, it's bigger,
it's
right?
gigantic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like gigantic roundabout, right? Um, and so that one seems to work. But you're right. Maybe on a small scale, maybe there's an issue, right?
I think it's hard because you can't see anything coming and you also don't have much time because it's such a small roundabout
Yeah,
that you go in and someone can just kind of
yeah.
pop in from out of sight.
Also, because it's so small roundabouts, you could kind of go around it very quickly. A large roundabout, it's hard to go around it quickly, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, interesting. Okay, I love your analysis. It's so good. That is great.
Oh, great. Yeah. Um, so do you advise any next steps? As I said, I've been reaching
Well,
out.
what I would do is I would get a petition going like change.org. Have you done a change.org?
Yeah, I have.
You have okay. Have you published a slide to this to the change.org?
I could. I
Okay,
haven't
I
created.
think
I haven't created a petition for this issue.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
why
I've
don't
created change.org for other issues.
I would create a change.org for this issue, post the slides, and I will be happy to link to it as well. So, I mean, when she send you the change.org link, link it from the video so that she gets some traffic from it, and vice versa. You're welcome to reference this video, um, um, from the change.org. And I think this is democracy at work, right? I mean, I think you point out some really. I've only taken this thing on weekends, right, when it's not very busy. So to me, it's like, but I think also roundabouts, it's kind of weird to either. I thought most roundabouts, there's no stop signs or you have, or it's a roundabout. I didn't realize you do stop signs and roundabouts. And that's actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely unusual. I think a
Yeah.
typical roundabout that people are used to just has a yield sign in all
Yeah.
directions.
Yeah. That's right.
So I think it's just very confusing for people what they're
Yeah.
supposed to do here. I mean, I don't know how to navigate a roundabout with two stops and two nothings.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
super confusing.
Yeah. I think it makes more sense to be yield on everything or stops or something, right?
Hmm.
Um, interesting. Um, okay. Well, thank you. I love the work you did in research on this. And if you could create that change.org, I think that'd be a great way um, for us to, um, you know, kind of maybe correct a mistake here, right?
Okay, so then create the change.org and then bring it to a city council meeting with a number of people is
Yeah, I think that's right thing to do. I mean, I think if you got a very successful change.org, I think transportation department might just fix it, right? You may not have to go to city council. You only have to go to city council if staff refuses to do it, and then city council has to override staff. But if you have a very successful, I mean, the arguments you make here are really compelling, and I'd love to hear the counter arguments. I don't know what they are, but if there are counter arguments, it'd be great to hear them. But I think I think it would be great to see what kind of response you get and see like um yeah, maybe this is a big problem to a lot of people, and I mean yeah, I mean, and we should fix
okay.
it.
And then who in the city government do you recommend going to once I have that change.org?
Philip Kami.
Okay.
Yeah, and Cole can also help you on this. So we'll link to your petition, and you can link back to this video. And if you get resistance from staff after you get really positive results on the chain.org, then we could also try to push it on our side, like a colleague's memo or something like that, to help make it happen. But I think
Okay.
if the chain.org is pretty compelling, I would think that it would just happen. Staff would just do it.
Okay. I'll try. I don't feel terribly optimistic because I've been reaching out to Philip Cami for over a year and
You're welcome to copy me on it too.
okay.
And then
Yeah,
Koa,
he just hasn't been
copy
responsive.
me and Koa, and then we could try to track it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, Helene, thank you so much for all your work on this. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time and thanks for all your service to the city.
Of course. Okay. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.